You don't have to be a remarkable adult. I hope you heard what I just said. Nobody is asking you to be a remarkable adult. Nobody's putting that expectation on you, and I hope that no part of my video made you feel like that. I hope that this point I just said, that you do not need to be a remarkable adult, gives you peace in your mind and settles whatever nervousness you might feel as you embark on your journey into contentment with adulthood. So you can drop your pretenses of feeling like you need to be a superhuman. It's not necessary. So no, you do not need to be a remarkable adult, but still know this. You will set the standard for the next generation. You and I are both inherently setting and will continue to set the standard for the next generation. Because in Ecclesiastes chapter 1 verse 9 it says there is nothing new under the sun. And every generation since the concept of generations began, since the dawn of man and age, has inherited two things from the generation prior. Both trauma and opportunity. And I personally think, unfortunately, my generation, Gen Z, we're inheriting like a boatload of trauma and issues in a particular generation, because we are very special in the sense that the level of processing that we're doing, the level of really sitting back and seeing all the ridiculousness and the BS that's been happening, we're not only really mourning the trauma that we have inherited as Gen Z, but our family, our parents, and the ones before them. So it's just like the millennials and the boomers and the whatever else in between. So unfortunately, it seems like our generation really is getting the boatload of a lot of trauma. But regardless of trauma or opportunity, we as individuals have also inherited the right to set the next baseline / standard for adulthood for the next generation. But not only adulthood, mental, the mindset of we inherit the right to set the mindset, the mental of the masses. We will. No, and we have. No matter how screwed up you think we are, we still are. That baseline is ours and it's at our feet. And I read, that mantle / standard, however wonky, war-torn, shell-shocked, and fright-filled it may be now, as it has rusted under the weight of Great Depression, society collapses, it still is passed down to each of us as adults and collectively sits at our feet. The standard cannot be moved by the turbulent winds or even by the rising sea levels, but I believe it can only be shifted or moved by human hands because it is a human standard of adulthood. We, our generation, Gen Z, decide whether to lift the standard / the mantle of adulthood or push it further down to the pits of hell for the next generation, maybe so the last, to have to dig up with burned and charred hands. Because let me tell you something, you do not have to be a parent to be a parent in the lives of the next generation like Gen Alpha. And trust and believe, regardless of what social media says about how disconnected we are as people in the real world, and we dismantled that whole ridiculousness, you have always been in the real world as a human being. We are still ridiculously connected, interconnected, and intergenerationally connected. And it's important that remember that, because like I said before in Permission to Go, every human has has influence within them. Every human has the ability to influence, but also every human within them carries this breeding and condition to be influenced. So we have to be very, very careful about how we influence our mindsets, because whether you are a parent of a child or not, they will take in how we as the adults combat in the world, go out in the world, view the world. And that is so important, even if you think that there's no point in trying to try anymore. All right. But why? Why did I make a point of making not having to be remarkable a very important point as to why I still think you qualify to be an adult? Why do I even bring it up in the first place? Why is it so important to remind you that in my eyes, whether you fail or succeed at a dream, at a goal, at something, you are still an adult? Why do I feel like it's important to remind you? That is because of the mental mass checking out that's happening, but also, or I think I call it the mass spirit of disqualification. And I read this. I personally think that us as adults, we are disqualifying ourselves from being either a good role model or just a good source of humanity in the world far too easily. We disqualify ourselves from people thinking that we can be on the right side of history, or even somebody that when people think of what a decent person looks like, we won't let ourselves take a stand for it because we deem ourselves unworthy to be even seen as decent. Decent is bare minimum. even being good feels far too heavy a mantle for us to carry. We disqualify ourselves from thinking that we can be seen as even decent because we're not remarkable in the sense that we haven't found a cure to cancer, we haven't fixed 16 orphanages, we haven't fixed climate change, this, that, and third, and we set these really high remarkable standards, but also they were set to us as well. If your dream was to even be a mechanic and you didn't do that, I mean, if you can't even do your dream, how can I be any source of good adulthood in the world? What's the point? Everyone is always beating me down about it. Adulting is a scam, right? And all the achievements that I have mentioned and the ones that I haven't mentioned, right? The people who create these things, who do these things, are so far not different than you, even with talent, even with privilege, I would say, even with money. Now, I'm not ignoring those really real statures. Again, I'm talking about the mindset you have, the mental. You might not have the money, you might not have the privilege, but you have your mind and your brain. And if you are not fine-tuning that for success, I'm telling you, you're going to give away before you start. And the reason you, again, disqualify yourself from being remarkable, and therefore if you are not remarkable, you're not an adult, and you're mass checking out and mass disqualifying yourself, is that you forget that every human being is born with a superpower, the same superpower that separates you from those people that are trying to find cures to cancers or doing miraculous things and working in the Olympics. And that superpower is this: trying. The superpower of our generation, the thing that will make us remarkable, even though we're not seeking that anymore, is the art of trying. Being a trier, trying. Whether it's trying for the first time, trying again, or trying at all with the right attitude, being a trier, because people are not even doing that, right? Because it's getting weird, friends. It's getting weird, neighbors. I don't know if you're neighbors yet. Hopefully you've looked around the neighborhood and maybe you found a landmass that you like. Again, take your time. No one's forcing you. But people... I'm sorry, babes. Everything now seems to be about being nonchalant. And look, I'm not a chalant person that's anti-being nonchalant. If you really are a nonchalant person, that's grand, that's fine. But I'm sure even the most nonchalant people have things that they care about enough that they're seen as like a trier for, right? And so I'm not saying it's bad to be like nonchalant. That's who you really are. But thinking that you're more smart for not trying, and I know I'm not being as eloquent, but I think the less eloquent I am, I think it's me really tapping into something I'm kind of like scared to say, but anyway. And trust, I know there's going to be people in the comment section right now like, yeah, well, obviously knowing me, of course I'm trying. I've been trying. All I do is try, and nothing works. Everything is stacked against me. I am yelling this to myself. Everything that I have said in this video, I have said time and time again, I am saying to myself too. Right? Because I am very aware that there are tangible structures probably set in place against you for your downfall. And I can't speak to those structures. I didn't create them. I wish they weren't there. I don't know what to say in that regard. But what I can talk to you about is someone who has the same mental structures as you probably. Like, no, I'm tired, I'm done. I failed the expectations of people and I'm not remarkable. I'm 24, I'm not where I should be. I'm not a successful adult. That does not matter, babe. You might not feel like a successful adult, but you are an adult. You are still an adult, and that to me is still a success, right? And so I'm screaming this as the point and not to give up, even when the problems are getting worse. And I'm not talking about burnout. I'm not talking to the point of burnout. I'm even speaking as a burned out person. I believe that letting go is still a relaxed form of trying because you're not giving up the essence of your soul you hope for to have in adulthood. You're stitching yourself carefully back together. Relaxation is preservation, and your adulthood is very much worth preserving. So I am aware I'm not asking you to burn out, and I'm not ignoring the tangible structures against you that brought you to this place of burning out. We are talking about your mental, your mind. So I am aware of that. Please help me to stop giving disclaimers, okay? So I'm just gonna pause for a second. And again, I know we have it bad, and that is a beyond uneducated, like, underestimate of the century. We could even claim that we might have a worse than some eras. And I'm not denying that or saying it's false. I would agree with you. I think we have it really, really bad. Even if we are not dealing with big on full out World War IIIs right now, we're on the cusp of it. We're always on the cusp of a war. The inner war. Because we might not be in World War III and everybody was affected in some way, but everybody's being targeted in the inner war of the mind and the body and the spirit. Every person is being targeted on all fronts. So it is serious. And I read, yes, it is a big bad fallen world out there with systems against us that are very real, and it feels like we're trying against the end of the world. But even if it is the end of the world, maybe I'm dumb or stupid, I don't know. I would rather be boom blasted out of the end of the world than just fade. I would rather be boom blasted when I'm trying to make a difference than fade. It's not about grand acts that make you an awesome adult, but all the unseen 100 optimistic tries it took for you to get to that success. I know Kurt Cobain is a very controversial figure, but his quote, it's better to burn out, not burn out culture, but it's better to burn out than fade away. And I agree. People my age are fading away far too rapidly. Mentally, we've already deteriorated. I hope not to say beyond repair, but definitely would need of severe repair. The fight of the body, the mind, and the spirit, no human is not being affected. And none of us is coming out of it alive. So it's about how we're living, even if it is the end of the world. On to my side point. Trying at the end of the world / apocalypse. I am all for trying at the end of the world. Because you guys, I don't think we can be nonchalant about big problems that are being very chalant with us. And even a part of my logical brain is disagreeing with me and saying, no, I don't think that we should try, and there's no point, and we are at a zombie apocalypse. But even, I feel like even if we are heading that way, we're not there yet. We're not totally brain dead. Our brains have not totally brain rotted. I mean, they're really bad and we probably have to chip things off. But my gosh, man, what about all the TikToks about the indomitable human spirit? That's the thing that's being attacked. Whether you're religious or spiritual or not, that's being attacked on all fronts. I think it's still worth. I don't have the degrees that people have who have psychology and could tell me actually you're just speaking very ignorantly. Forgive me, but I don't know. It means something instinctive or something primal to fight, even if it is the end, even if it is a zombie apocalypse. I don't know. I just think so. But anyway, you guys, back to that whole superpower of trying. I'm telling you that the superpower and the revolutionary act of our era is going to be to try things out loud, boldly, privately, in person, because we are being, again, slowly attacked internally at every front, so that the concept of going outside, what people are saying, what society is saying, what the governments are trying to make us think or rule as, feels stupid and foreign. But trying to think, trying to hope, trying to dream, that is beyond revolutionary. If you believe in that whole energy and stuff, I mean, there has to be a baseline level that, being a trier, the energy of trying has to at least be half a supernova. That's what I think. So if you believe in energy and stuff. So, I mean, the energy, the concept of frequency and stuff. I know energy is a very real scientific thing. I know that, but I mean frequencies and whatever. So to have peace with being seen trying, because that's really all that we have right now as human beings. And so you don't have to be remarkable to others. You just have to be an adult that tries a remarkable and oftentimes a delusional amount of times. Because that in and of itself is incredibly remarkable in today's times. Don't believe that everything in life is going to be a battle. And if it is a battle, don't believe that everything is going to be uphill. Not all of adulthood is just fighting. Not all of adulthood is just fighting an invisible enemy and you have no weapons and it's banging you down. That is how we are made to think about adulthood. That's the whole barrage about bills and bombarding and boyfriends breaking up and fighting and baddies and bitches. Forgive me for cussing, but people say things like bitches and this and that and third. That is not all of adulthood. That is not all of adulthood. And that it's what's being shown to us like crazy. But what's being shown is not all that there is. And please do not think that that is all that adulthood has to be. We have just talked in the past points before that we have like a say in what our adulthood is like and what the adulthood of other people can also be like for the better. So no, not everything is going to be an upward battle. Not everything is going to be terrible. Not everything is awful. And I am now going to contend with cynicism / pessimism and the God that we have made of it. I'm going to contend with that God. Not the logic that is in cynicism and slight pessimism, but the God, the deity we have made of doubt. I am getting sick of it. So we have to be so careful with this brand of pessimism that's going around. It's this variant of pessimism, and furled and wrapped within it is this sense of superiority that's always been around. That's issues that intellectuals have in like the education spheres, thinking that the more intelligent you are, the more miserable you have to be, therefore that makes you more intelligent, and the most intelligent person is the most miserable. But we're talking here about what the point of that even is, right? I'm against and contending against this deity. And so I know people don't like Winston Churchill. I know that there's like issues in that with him. I get that completely. But I love his quote about, he said that success is being able to go from failure to failure without losing optimism, right? So if you want to be a functioning adult, we talked about like giving yourself permission to be a fool and making your adulthood dunce friendly. You're going to be seen even worse when you remind yourself you don't have to be remarkable, and you fight for a positive mind, even in the face of deep trauma. And you're not awful if you're unable to do that and you've suffered from trauma. Nobody's awful for doing that. But what I am saying is this: there are many people today, and you're not crazy, who for whatever reason valid to them completely doggone crap on people who try, and they make them feel like if you are a trier, you are beneath them, as if you have more brain cells because you haven't let your mind be battered by life because you're out on the actual arena trying. Like anyone that does anything to try to be helpful in this world or make any sort of positive change is dumb, is foolish, is an idiot, is a dense fool, and we are so dumb quick to tear them down. That's the sickness that we carry on our end, right? So anyone who tries to be positive or in any way optimistic is kind of ridiculed. And again, disclaimer, I'm going to make a video about how sick and tired of I am of me disclaiming all the time. I think the reason this video is stupidly long is because I give way too many disclaimers. But anyway, I'm not saying that we don't look at real honest statistics in the face, even if they are bad statistics. If the reality of the situation is totally bleak and dire, we should look that in the face. And still, whether it's delusional to people or anyone, have the last moments of our life, if this really is the end of the world, because how many apocalypses do we as Christians owe people? If it really is the end of the world, then I think then who is it gonna bother that we try to be positive in the end of the world? And why would that bother somebody, right? Especially actually if you're a Christian watching and you have no hope. I'm not saying you're a bad Christian and Jesus doesn't love you if you've been hopeless and you've been struggling with hope, right? But I would say if you find yourself more intellectually inclined because you in a way submit to the deity of doubt, the God of pessimism and cynicism, that is biblically illegal. Speaking specifically to Christians, that is biblically illegal. Because as a Christian, what do we hope in? Again, I'm not saying that like you're bad at Christian if you're depressed and stuff. I'm not even going to get into that realm. But if you like see yourself as more superior, as if you have more knowledge of God because of your misery and that your intellect, hello, that's biblically kind of illegal, because not only do we believe in the idea of hope, like we believe for things, we hope for things not seen, for the evidence of, we hope for the, like that verse about faith and hope and all, like, I am a Christian, but I don't remember the verse, but like, come on now. We believe in not only hope, but the blessed hope that is Jesus Christ. And that has to mean something. But clowning those that are trying to do something and make changes in their lives or to dream big, whether it's possible or not, I say not to be that guy personally, but do you think it's really going to make you more positive, or at least more, even a little bit more resilient to the challenges of life? Being a kind of person who's prone to slapping someone in the face with intellect regarding what they can and can't do. Again, I already said that we're not ignoring statistics and stuff, but using those as a tool to bash people into complacency, because the most intelligent thing to do in the world is to be relatively complacent to the misery in their own lives. I'm not talking about being complacent to the system and then you're speaking to specific groups of people who have always had to fight the system. I'm talking individuals clowning other individuals for going out of their way trying to do something. That is not a very positive, hopeful, or even neutral way to live life. And remember, like I said before in the beginning, some people are not starting off from like zero, like neutral common sense. They're starting at like -12 or something, -20. And if you're one of those kind of people, I said here, not starting from that place, you have an already incredibly low positive fuel tank. You're already busted at the knees because you're trying to get to zero neutral. That neutral is such a privilege. So just to be like careful not to be someone who, I can say, don't let yourself drown in negativity. Don't let yourself drown in misery and the intellect that misery is being kind of imaged as. But I mean, sometimes it really is as easy as that. Fighting, contending against that. Because again, we talked about being an adult. We talked about giving yourself permission to go, having the right to trial and error, making your life dunce friendly or appropriate for whoever you are. And if you need help with that, know that you take your time, you fight for your adulthood, to know that you have free will. One of those ways that we can incorporate free will is through whimsy, right? All of these things help you to be an adult. These are inherently, at the very least, neutral mindsets. But the idea that there's superiority in cynicism is not, that might be your natural, but that's not neutral. That's inherently negative. And I'm sorry, it's going to do more damage to your body and be less healing. And we need a lot more adults fighting to be healed and to heal regardless of like the world bumping them down. I know that doesn't make sense, and I hope to get better at speaking, but I do hope that brings some sort of clarity, at least to where I'm at with that mindset. Again, this is an unbaked, half-baked opinion, but I do think that it might be better to view life perhaps in that way. I don't know. What do you guys think? So as an adult, you must resist the odious branch of intelligence that believes in the superiority of cynicism. Because yes, we might be cooked, but we're not totally burned. I know the planet's getting hotter. I get that. And I know I'm saying that really dismissively, but still, what's the point of doing all these beauty products if you let misery age you? Now, I'm not, like, you know what I mean? Come on, you know where this applies to you. I don't have to keep giving disclaimers, okay? So, yes, we might be cooked, but we haven't been fully burned yet. And we can still do even a tiny thing to change things, even turn the burner down if only by 0.5 degrees Celsius. That's still a very good thing that we can do. But there is someone who describes what I'm trying to say far better. I just randomly saw a snippet of one of his community posts online on YouTube. And again, no disclaimer, I don't know anything about some YouTubers, so if they do something wrong and I just happen to see their community posts, I'm sorry. I'm gonna make it a habit of 2026 to stop giving disclaimers. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna make a video about that. But anyway, this guy called City Tutoring Math, he said something in his community tab, and a snippet of it. I don't know if I'm gonna snap a picture of it as I read. If not, I'm gonna try and I don't know, something, or just listen to it. And he wrote this quote, and I just think he just says it elegantly. And from his community post, he writes this: modern culture was not born out of a thirst for truth, but out of a radical distrust of reality. Doubt ceased to be a noble method and became a throne. Self-consciousness was enthroned as the new altar, while the world with its order, its beauty, its nature, its divine laws was downgraded to a disposable hypothesis. If it served the self, it was retained. If it did not, it was discarded. Anything irreducible to the self became suspect. Thus began the great disintegration of ontology. Being was no longer the first principle. First came my impression. First came my thought. First came me, 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 me. And when I read it, I was like, yes, period. Especially the whole part about like, doubt ceased to be a noble method. Again, doubt is intelligent. It's good to have when you're critically thinking about something. When you consume information, when information absorbed in you, you first have to doubt it. Even if at the end of all your research you come to the same conclusion when it first arrived to you, that's fine. Right? Doubt is not the issue. Making it a deity, making it anything more than a noble method, and giving it a throne is where I draw the line, where I personally have to continuously purge and ask God to reject that notion, even if it is delusional. At least I have an excuse to say, even if people think I'm a stupid Christian, at least I have an excuse to say, like, well, as Christians, we believe in the blessed hope, and that means something, you know? Like, the Bible is littered with human involvement in history. Wherever humans are involved, there is misery. And still, amidst even the chaoticness of Revelation, if it's not good, it's not the end. At least I can have that excuse to say, well, it's just a fanciful, whimsical Christian belief. People can say that, but that is enough for me to be like, yeah, doubt is a great method for research and studying and going through your daily life. When you get information, you let it. Doubt is a great sifter. But is it superior? No, babe. So he said it more elegantly. So negative statistics seem to be the god of our reality. We voraciously indulge ourselves in negative stats and realities as if it is some moral kink, a moral duty to not be pessimistic, but totally averse and allergic to hopeful thinking. As if that is all that it means to be an adult. To believe everything is over before it starts, before you have really gotten to start. Why is that more adult than hope? Why is a death sentence the right sentence? Why is a death sentence the adult sentence? Like, do you know how remarkable you are to attempt something? Do you know how incredible even the bare minimum of trying is today? Do you know how triumphant you are for taking community projects into your own hands in a rapidly anti-community society? Do you know how awesome it is to talk to strangers kindly, to try and get to know the name of your neighbors, to attempt to bring a cake over or something, to attempt to ask for sugar, to attempt to do things that make us human and not AI? Are you aware of how God glory giving that is, how triumphant that is, and even however wickedly you started adulthood or however late you feel you've given yourself permission to be an adult, that you have taken it in your reins, you have attempted to take your adulthood in your control. This whole video is inherently the permission to go, the permission to try. Do you know how remarkable that is for you to get up? And look, you're not a bad person if you are not getting up again because you're tired. I'm not gaslighting you for what you went through. I believe that what you went through was traumatic to you and valid and more. And I hope you get more than what you happily deserve, but that you get healing. But if you're still looking adulthood in the face of that trauma, adulthood, which is 4/5 of your life, you're looking at the longest fifths of your life in the face and saying, I'm going to give you a try. Do you know how in this day and age, how remarkable that is? That is beyond remarkable. That is life-changing, not only to yourself, but to other people around you. Because what did we say? All humans influence, and all humans are like bred to be influenced. All of us have influence and are influenced. To make that conscious decision to try, that is your superpower. That is going to make you an adult. So please remember that the most remarkable thing that you can do as an adult is to try to be one. The most remarkable thing you can do as an adult is to try to take things in your stead. It's to really try to take your mental into your own hands. It's to try to ask yourself the hard questions and to persist. If bills terrify you, some people are so terrified of bills because it's like, I think bills are a little bit traumatic. Then if it's your bill and no one else is going to see it, then what an idea. I don't know anything about Pokemon, but Pikachu. That's the only Pokemon I know. So when a bill is paid, you draw a Pikachu to remind you it's paid. When it's not paid, you don't know a single name of another Pokemon. This is really bad. So if you paid a bill, you can draw a Pokemon. If it's not paid, you can draw another random Pokemon Go character or whatever. That's something you can do. That's a whimsical thing right there. That doesn't make you less adult. If it makes you face your adult bills in the face, that makes you very adult and ahead of a lot of the curve. If you are scared to take your own phone call for your own doctor's appointment, I was there once. I remember I was afraid to call the bank and say, hey, I'm 18, I can apply for a credit card or like a debit card. Like, that was something that was really hard for me to do. Thank God the lady who was doing it with me on the phone, because it was the pandemic, she was really sweet, she was really gentle, and she talked me through the whole process. Like, I mean, I'm not going to color my card or anything, but if you're scared to make a phone call, and if you have your own phone, house phone, like let's say you have those old landlines, okay, why don't you paint the side of it or something if it doesn't break the tech of it? Like, that is very much you being an adult. The most remarkable thing you can do in adulthood is to try to be one. Because we are going to set the standard of the next generation. Even if it is the last generation, that is still worth doing something. So, embrace your role as an adult and the mantle, however wonky, broken down it is, because that mantle, it's ours, it's yours, it's mine, and I don't care. I know it's in good hands. You are going to be a fine adult. Okay. So, okay, we have beat that horse. Like, you know the way people say things like, oh, you can take a horse to the river, but you can't make it drink. We can't even do that. That horse is dead. That horse is decomposed. That point about not having to be remarkable and trying is your superpower. We have that down on lock. So officially, we are at the very, very last point. The last point really is short. I know. I am going to try and promise. It's just a roundup point of everything. And I am so excited.